Let's take a look at a video about a Republican who's going to defend trans people because their own son is trans.
This video that you're about to see here, I think
this is right. That's right. Kyle is coming out as trans. No,
really.
This is Kyle. Kyle's the one. I couldn't find this video out of there on its own without some weird around it, so I figured I'd just use Kyle.
Really interesting.
So consider this a one-way collaboration.
So this guy is named Rick Colby. He's an Ohio Republican, and he is talking at this government meeting here, and he's going to urge Republicans to not crack down on the transgender community, even though he's conservative, even though he's a Republican, even though he describes himself as anti-woke. And his thoughts are very interesting, and it's a unique take through personal experience. Listen to this.
I love my son.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I don't know if we'll listen to Kyle's commentary afterwards, but I just got to say this reminds me so much of when the entire Republican Party was rallying all of its troops to be these radicals against gay marriage, and it was the top issue of the party, and you had Dick Cheney as the number 2 candidate on the ticket, and he has a lesbian daughter. And so when they asked him about that huge issue of gay marriage, he just refused to even talk about it because it's like, oh, well, I can't talk about that because my gay daughter, and it's like, and he was like a low-key supporter of gay rights and stuff because someone in his family was gay. And I just hate that these goddamn Republicans, they have no ability to actually empathize with human beings. They don't care about anything until it affects them directly. The only reason that this piece of shit gives a f about this issue is because they've been transformed on it through personal experience. That's it. They have no ability to actually empathize with others out there in the world and say like, hey, I can actually see what you're going through, and it humanizes you. They don't have that in them at all. It's just completely absent. So instead, unless something is like right on their doorstep, unless something comes and hits them over the head, they pay no mind to it. So this guy right here, as far as I'm concerned, is a bucket of shit, because he would be saying the same line as every other Republican out there if it weren't his own kid that were trans.
Dearly, just as I know many of you with children do yours, I'm a Republican, a Christian, and as anti-woke as you can get. No offense to the Democrats on the committee. My son is also a Christian. I have watched my son transform over the past 11 years into the son and man any father would be proud to have. I watched the debate about transgender people and attempts to ban gender-affirming care, and to be candid, I'm appalled.
I'm as anti-woke as you can get. Well, where do you think this came from? Maybe instead of just being like, hey, guys, I'm every bit a regressive, tyrant on most things, but because this thing actually affects me on this thing, I make an exception. It's like, maybe you should be like, hey, maybe my entire ideology is flawed. Maybe this should get me to question things more deeply. Maybe I shouldn't be a Christian. Maybe I shouldn't be a ravenous anti-woke Riri. Because all of this bigotry and hatred that's being directed towards my son right now stems from that ideology. So maybe I should excise it from myself completely.
I see it breaking into this left-right thing, and it's really not. There are Republicans, there are Christians.
Your party made it into that because you guys decided that because your agenda, your actual agenda 100% is a pro-rich agenda, and you couldn't actually win the populace of this country if you put forth your real agenda. So instead, you have to use social and cultural hot button issues to divide the populace. And that's why trans people became a left-right issue, when you're right, they absolutely shouldn't be. But you know who made them that? You guys, your party, the anti-woke Riris that you're one of on 99% of all issues, but on this one issue, you've made an exception. Because it's your kid.
Who have?
And it's only your kid that deserves empathy. It's only your kid that deserves compassion.
Transgender children. The people wanting to ban gender-affirming care have no idea what it is like to be transgender or to have a transgender child.
No, Sherlock. Neither would you if it weren't you. That's the problem here. Because unless you experience it directly, you just can't get it. Why is that? Why is your imagination so limited? Is there like an absence of mirror neurons in your head so you can't possibly like empathize with another human being? Like even a sociopath can empathize with human beings better than some of these goddamn Republicans because they can like intellectually deconstruct scenarios and figure out how to socially manipulate things. So even they have to have a better understanding of other human beings than most people in the GOP who are basically just id-driven narcissists. No wonder they love a guy like Donald Trump, because it's them. He's barely got a brain. He's like a brain stem in a suit that just, trans bad, woke bad. Oh, my son trans? Okay, trans good, but woke still bad.
This is not something that's done on a whim. It's a deep-rooted dysphoria that, yes, even has spiritual elements to it. My son has a masculine soul.
That's not how, whatever.
And he said he's felt this way since he was 5. He tried so hard to overcompensate and try to fit into being a feminine young woman by participating in beauty pageants. For years, he tried to be a young woman, and it didn't ease the ache and sadness in his soul. And it was only until he was able to transition to be a young man did the light in his eyes return. You've got to go.
Well, that's because of the demons, though. There's demons in there.
Go easy on this. This is a terrible bill.
They're not gonna.
This is not the simple issue being portrayed by the anti-trans people.
Keep it real. That was powerful.
No, I'll keep it even more real. No, it wasn't. It was disgusting. I'm glad that they came around to the right way of seeing things, but the fact that it takes that to make these people not pieces of makes me mad. Because they should be able to just be like, use their ability to empathize with human beings, activate it, turn on that switch in their heads. It shouldn't need to be literally in your own house before you get it. They're emotionally stunted, dumb and I hate them so goddamn much.
That was powerful. It's funny, right? Because everybody understands this and sees this when it comes to gay people and even gay kids, right? We've all had the experience, you know.
Not everybody. A lot of people now, even for saying the word gay kids, would just be like, nope, you're a piece of shit. There are no such thing. Why does a kid need to be making those kind of decisions? As if it's a decision and not just like how you are.
You meet a kid, maybe a family friend or cousin or whatever, and, you know, you say afterwards, like, yeah, I think the kid's gay. And, you know, most of the time you're probably correct. Maybe sometimes you're wrong. But, you know, sometimes you just go, yeah, I think that's what it is. And sometimes it is what it is. That's a universal experience. Absolutely. But nobody takes that next logical step, which is, well, hold on now. If there are gay kids.
What's next? Kids in litter boxes then? You know, I don't know. I feel like Kyle giving this guy way too much credit. I get being excited that there's anyone on the Republican side of the aisle that's able to come around on this. I get that that's like a promising sign and that we should be celebrating it, but I just can't celebrate someone who's so stunted that, one, they don't actually give up any of their regressive ideology except for in that one instance. They don't do any sort of broader assessment. They don't do any sort of broader introspection about their ideology as a whole and why they hold the beliefs they do. It's just like this one thing. They make a little exception because, boom, it's right there in their living room.